My name is Boris Williams. I'm the Financial Resiliency Coordinator with the AmeriCorps, and today I'm serving with a Better Chance, a Better Community. And with my team, we're going to be talking about community advocacy and the many roles that it plays. So throughout this presentation, we'll be having our welcome and introductions. We'll be understanding the community's needs, going over developing an advocacy plan, and then how we can overcome challenges, then measuring impact and success. Then lastly, we'll be going over ABC2's community advocacy model. Great. So for our icebreaker, we'd like for you all to share your story and hear from you. Borja, we would like to hear your name, who you're representing, and then what does it mean to be a leader within your community? Probably give around like 5 minutes or so for you guys to come up with a response, or if anybody has one, you can go ahead and raise your hand. Well, I can go for myself. My name is Boris Williams. I'm representing ABC2 as mentioned. And I think for me, what it means to be a leader within our community is really advocating for the different gaps and resources or different disparities that may be overlooked. And definitely giving a voice for people within a community. So that's something I would say.
For me, being a leader, just really means being able to learn and listen to everybody, see what needs to be happening, and all of the things where we can kind of fill in up to the gaps. Just be a servant to in leadership and being able to serve everybody fairly, effectively, and being able to kind of pivot where we need to learn and where we've done stuff that didn't work out, and kind of change things to be better.
I agree with that. We definitely have to, hear from other people and get their feedback as well, what you're doing. See how you can do it better next time or what to take into consideration. So I definitely agree with that. Great.
All right, so we're going to talk about ABC2 a little bit, and then we're going to have some more conversations. So at ABC2, our mission is to connect rural communities with resources to activate youth power and advocate for realistic solutions and healthier lifestyles. And we do that by activating youth for thriving communities, fostering grassroots organizing strategies for civic engagement, health equity, environmental justice, and economic vitality. So, we have a small, intimate group, so I would love to hear from you guys. You came here to learn about community advocacy, but you should have some understanding of some degree. But I would love to hear from you, what is community advocacy to you, and why do you feel it's important?
For me, I feel like it's important. We don't move forward without the community. We need each other in order to build whatever it is we look for in the future, whether that's something as simple as, at least for me, that comes up a lot from people in different agencies that I work with, is that there's no grocery stores in some of these areas, and trying to figure out, okay, what's the next best thing to make that work, but it takes the community to figure that stuff out. And I've seen time and time again, different people come up with different ideas that work in their area to fix something like that. It's very important that every person that lives in those areas has a voice in saying what happens in their area.
That's Ms. Pittman, right?
Yes.
Thank you. So what we're doing is I want to ask you, what is community advocacy and why is it important to you? Does anybody else want to share?
So what is community advocacy and why it's so important? Yeah, I guess there's so much. I advocate for my youth. that I have. Not only because I'm a Mexican, but because it is my duty. I have to speak up for those that don't have a voice. So that's what community advocacy is, and it's important, for example, for me to share my story and the stories of my people so that it might build awareness. To the state, the nation.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to share? I'm gonna hear one more. Yes.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Willow. And I believe that advocacy, community advocacy is important because, as you mentioned, it's our way of uplifting our feelings more than just being a guy and saying, man, I hate how they passed that law. You know, so it's just like doing something about it.
Absolutely, I appreciate you sharing that. So for the context of this presentation, we pull from what you all just said that our definition is that community advocacy involves individuals or groups working together to influence public policy, laws and resources, allocation, decisions within their community. It's about identifying unmet needs and taking action to address them. Can we all agree to that? Awesome. And why it's important, you all named so many there. Empowerment gives community a voice to shape their future. Social justice promotes fairness by tackling systemic barriers. Better quality of life improves living conditions and access to resources. And then stronger communities, which encourages collaboration and shared responsibilities. So some key components of community advocacy is, one, you have to be able to identify the needs. Don't assume the needs. Identify the needs by asking the community. Because don't take the community apples when they may want oranges, right? Raise awareness. Educate residents and policymakers. Build partnerships. Collaborate with like-minded groups. Mobilize residents. Encourage community involvement. And when you mobilize residents, it's not telling them what to do. Ask them how they see themselves in that work, or how do they feel they can contribute. So they have that ownership and understanding of their role. And then influence leaders, advocate for policy change. Jackie y'all said, tell my story, tell our story. And that is a part of advocacy to evoke change. So some of the community advocacy goals that may come up in your community is like affordable housing. Y'all agree? Education, healthcare, environment, and public safety. These are going to come up a lot in your community, and once you have addressed those or be able to identify those, then you have to talk about those challenges and barriers that exist. Don't assume. You talk about them, and when you name them, it helps build the action plan or the momentum to move forward to address it. So some of the challenges that you may face in your communities is around limited resources. Advocacy struggles with funding and staffing constraints. Power imbalance. Especially in marginalized communities, we are faced with challenges and barriers that sometimes out of our own control because of the power that may be that oppress us or sometimes prohibit us from having that access. Resistance to change. You can be faced with opposition from external factors, also within your own camp, because sometimes change is hard to process. So you have to be able to resist change, but also to push it to have that understanding and awareness. And that comes from engaging and having community conversations. So strategies for effective community advocacy is community organizing. It's about organizing, coming together, and building relationships, building networks, and having people to feel empowered or activating the power within themselves, then to build that collective power together. Public education, raise awareness and mobilize and support. And you have to do that through educated, or I tell people to do that homework, because you just can't show up to and not understand how we got here. to understand where we are, to even begin to think about where we're going. And then understanding what lobbying means, because we have to interact with our legislators or those power or decision makers. So you have to be able to know how to interact with them and how to communicate. Media advocacy. We are in an age now where social media and communications is huge. So how you leverage that to make sure your story is told, and your story is told accurately, so it's conveyed in a way that would promote or allow change to happen. And then legal advocacy. That's kind of new to the term, but you have to think about the legality even more now than ever, as in terms of the challenges to the unjust laws. You have to understand what those parameters is so that you are being able to make that change, but also to do it in a way that can disrupt the system. So with that, I'm gonna pass it to Preference to talk about understanding community needs.
Hello, everyone. Okay, y'all gotta wake up. We have not had lunch. Because that's when you really might be ready to relax. No, I know everybody's attentive and excited to be here. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Preference Evans and I'm Resilience Coordinator for ABC2 through AmeriCorps. And I'm gonna start us off by talking about understanding community needs. So, like Chester was telling us, one of the most important things that you have to do is actually interact with the community who you are serving, or the communities who you are serving. And so there are several ways that you can collect information. Top of the list, surveys. Now that doesn't mean just start sending out dry surveys, putting everybody on SurveyMonkey. There are several ways you can collect survey information. But of course we know that an effective way to collect information is through an electronic or a paper survey. You want to make sure that those questions in your survey are relevant to information that you may have received about the community, whether that's through others or through the community themselves beforehand. Sometimes you have to put a feeler out there just to determine what is it that the community wants before you can move forward. So, ways that you can conduct those surveys is taking them to town hall meetings. A lot of your community members will show up for town hall meetings. And if they find out that there are people there who are trying to assess their needs and trying to assist them, then you'll have more participation at your town hall meetings and you can collect more information to find out how you can better serve your community. Has anybody else had this experience going to town hall meetings? No? Okay, well good. Some yes, some not. Okay, that's something you can add to your list. Yay. All right. Focus groups. So, and then your town halls can also help you with promotion, as Chester was saying, like through social media. They can also just add a little bar saying this organization will be there to do blah, 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 and that can, get you some co-promotion. So focus groups, specific groups of people that have a specific desired outcome in mind. You can get them together. It's very similar to doing a study where you have a group of people who come in and answer specific questions. I know I'm saying specific, but you want to be very intentional about your target audience. You don't want to just throw everybody in the room and everybody's not interested in the same goal. That can also change the tone of your meetings as well. And you all may have had some experience with that, where there is too much of a contrast in goals and desired outcomes, and then you don't reach your ultimate goal. All right, community forums and meetings, social media and online engagement, collaborating with community partners. All of those things kind of work together. You can promote through social media. You can meet through social media. Now everybody's in Zoom and video calls. So you can connect all of those things together. Partner collaboration, this is a big one. People always talk about how numbers increase your chances of success. Now, I know everybody doesn't want to partner with everybody, but there again, you identify what you all have in common with each other and whether or not you will be successful as partners together. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, well, you know, I don't feel like, you know, we're suited for each other in this regard. And if you know somebody who you feel like they will work better with, you can make that suggestion. But such and such and them over there, you know, they're actually working on a similar project. That might work out better for you. Every partnership is not an ideal partnership. This is just for when it works. All right. And then door-to-door canvassing, which is my least personal favorite because I used to work for the U.S. Census Bureau. And it was okay, but you know, now people are more cautious about opening doors. You have people recording you, but I'm not going to talk against it. I just want to throw that out there because I know some of you are like, oh, go door to door. It actually works when you have rapport with your community. So in the case of what you were saying, people who you're comfortable with, people who are comfortable with you, if you are from a particular community, everyone knows who you are. They're not going to be ready to like, hey, what's going on, call 911. That would be a great time for you to go and knock door to door, especially when you want to invite third parties. A lot of times universities show interest in your communities. And so rather than having them go out, strange, unknown faces, maybe you can go out to your, for example, people who attend churches. If it's your church community, you could go around to those doors, or you could, when they're in your facility or building, you can share the information there and they can go door to door in their community. So there's ways to get it done. And then finally, data and mapping. So this one might seem, you know, a little bit extra, but it's super important to collect data that's useful and then strategically map out those areas to identify trends and patterns so that can help you in the future. You know, for example, our organization is focused a lot on water quality this year. Are there any areas that have been specifically affected by water quality or have concerns about water quality? Has there been some kind of a reporting of a spill in your area recently? Those are the types of information that can be helpful to you in planning your events. And so you may say, look, y'all, we want to talk about water quality. And they say, well, you know, we're more worried about smog. And so now you have a new avenue for how you can help your community. All right. So strategies for engagement. This is actually my favorite part. So strategies for engagement. How do you get people involved? Well, first of all, it has to be something that interests them. So that's where it takes us to relationship building. People go where they feel comfortable. So you have to actually spend time talking to people or have people in your organization who spend time talking to people. How many of you have ever been to an event where the person who's talking just feels so icy that you don't want to interact with them? Have any of you had that experience? Okay. Or you go to an event and it's like all the people in the room seem stuck up and you just like, oh, I don't even know why I'm here. Okay, so relationship building is important. Does anybody have an example of a time where you may have had started out rough with someone, and then after you spent time building a relationship, things smoothed out and you were able to move forward? Anybody want to share? Well, I've done it before. I have met people and been like, I don't know about that one. But once we had an opportunity to get to know each other, realize that we had more in common than we thought, and then we were actually able to collaborate. Or maybe even that person recommended me to someone else because they appreciated the contact that we had. Okay, information sharing. This is another one that I see people talking about a lot online as far as sharing information. But in this particular case, you don't want to be afraid to share very pertinent information. When you have stakeholders involved, you want to make sure that they have accurate information, relevant information, and timely information. You don't want to have people involved and you're talking about something that happened in 1978 because that's no longer relevant, okay? We got to stay up to date. And we also need to have solutions in mind. So not just, when we have problems, can you fix it? Go ahead and start processing what are some things that we feel like are on the right track to solving it, and then they can take you to the next level, whether that's providing funding or saying, well, you know what, we've done this before somewhere else, and this is what worked. Are you willing to try it? Again, collaboration. Anyone who can assist you, from community members up to legislators, or however you want to phrase that. Sharing your goals, sharing your strategies, because really you're working together. It's not you working for them, it's not them working for you, though some people might dispute that. The goal is for everybody to be on the same page. And then capacity building. So a lot of times, and depending on the area, there are community members who are informed about everything on the planet except for their communities. I want to say I'm one of them, because I don't have a clue what's going on where I live half the time. But in saying that, I'm telling you, because I don't think I'm a slow person by any means. I don't think I'm, one of those people who just lives under a rock. But at the same time, there are lots of things that I had no idea were happening in my community. And so this is why it's important for you as an organization to offer opportunities for people in your community to come out, to learn things they may not know. Have trainings and workshops available for them, and any other resources that are available. And I've learned a lot just being with ABC too about things that they do offer in the community, or we do offer in the community. And then accountability. Stakeholders must be accountable. Okay, everybody has to be accountable, you included. Whatever you commit to, you have to be consistent and accountable. Whatever they commit to, whoever is in your team or organization, everybody has to be accountable. And you, again, making sure that everything that you share out is accurate, making sure that you are actually following the proper reporting measures, because people want to know, like, what are you really doing behind closed doors? You might have an event here and there, but what is it really doing? Like, is anybody being served? What is anybody getting from it? Okay. Am I talking too much? Okay. All right, because I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know if I'm going over time here. All right, and then finally, benefits of engagement. Increased awareness, enhanced collaboration, greater impact, and activating power. So this is a word that we hear a lot at ABC too, activating power. Because ultimately what you want your community to be able to do is to navigate on its own, as a group, as well as individually. You don't want the people in your community to be like me, not knowing what's going on, first of all. And you don't want them to feel powerless in situations like you were saying here about, okay, we just go to cookout, eat, and say, ooh, that was a crazy law. I hope they don't pass that. It's got to be deeper than that. It has to be, what can we actually do? Okay? If you have to give them okay, we're going to start with steps 1, 2, and 3. What can we physically do? And so, bringing it back up to the top, the more people you share your information with, the more people can share out to other community members. So it's, it's a spreading effect. Another benefit, you're enhancing collaboration. You're building relationships with individuals and organizations that you may not have ever interacted with before. A greater impact. Of course, you can have a greater span, a greater reach, and you can affect more policymakers. And then back to empowerment. People would like to have ownership of as many things as they can. And in a world where a lot of people can't own property, the least they can do is take ownership of their communities. What can I do to make this place a happy place, a thriving place, a positive place while I'm here in it? And then, creating an impactful message. All right, y'all, I know I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm gonna let y'all talk. Does anybody have any questions about what I've said so far? Okay. All right, so can anybody just share your understanding of what it means to know your audience? And you can go for what's there. What does it mean to know your audience? What they need and what they want. Anybody else? Yes.
Knowing what's in it for me, for them.
Okay, so they need to know, how do they benefit? Anybody else? Needs, wants, benefits, potential benefits? Yes.
Sometimes knowing their history and their cultural background.
Yes. history and cultural background, things like demographics. You absolutely do not want to go into an event with people who have culturally damaging scars or scars due to their backgrounds. I know y'all understand what I'm getting at. And say something so totally insensitive or bring to them a proposal that counters everything that they believe in as a group. And I won't give an example. I'm pretty sure everybody can come up with one. But you have to know your audience. Even down to, I'm not gonna say anything, I won't say the wrong thing, but we definitely want to keep those ideas in mind, being sensitive to our potential. Yes. Being culturally competent, did I hear right? Okay, being culturally competent. And so while we can't know everything about everybody, just think about as a human being, what would I feel comfortable with somebody saying to me? And what might my friends, family, or neighbors feel comfortable with someone saying to them? Staying focused. So there's a lot that can come in between here, but staying focused. Stay on track. This matters. How many of you have ever been to an event and the people did not stay on the agenda and half the event was over and then you're looking like, wait a minute now, I gotta get home and cook my dinner. And they still talking, and they think you're supposed to stay there. Now that's just a loose example, but people need to know what it is that you are trying to do, and when we're gonna get to the end of that. When are we gonna see some results? When are we gonna see a product? You can't just keep taking people on and on and on, down these little loopholes and rabbit holes, and well, we forgot about that. Well, maybe we should go back to it. It's part of being organized. So when you are delivering a message, even if you get to a climax in the story, you always have to bring them back to the main point. And then inviting feedback. Here again, collecting information from your intended audience. What can they give you? What can they share with you? So does anybody else want to add anything as far as what you feel like creates an impactful message? I left a whole lot of stuff out because I don't want to talk y'all to death. What are some things that have worked for you as far as getting people to respond or react?
See, like, interactive, right then and there, you know, so, like, we're not gonna give examples. Right? But, just like, you know, preventive measures that were taken last year, now speaking up about, okay, actually, yeah,
Mm-hmm. So having a quick turnaround, having we live in, well, microwave might get old to say now, but we used to say living in a microwave society. And so people needing to see quick results in order to understand that things do actually happen. People have gotten to the point where they're looking for super duper fast, instant results, to the point where now if it doesn't come in 2 days in the mail, we want to know what's wrong with the services, delivery services. When back in the day, back in my day, you had to wait 4 to 6 weeks for a package and you didn't even get a tracking number. You just put it on a little card and hope they sent you the stuff you paid them for. So a lot of that is, thank you for that example, people being able to see direct results. So as much as possible, now you can't control everything, but as much as possible, you want to make it obvious to them as fast as you can. Or keep them engaged so they'll stick around to see what's going to happen next. Thank y'all.
Okay. Hey, y'all. Hi, guys. My name is Michaela Johnson. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for ABC2, and I'll just be talking to you guys about overcoming challenges. And I know I don't even need y'all to raise your hands. We all know we do experience challenges, and what I'll just be covering are some tips for addressing any oppositions and resistance that you may find when we're doing the strategies that Chester and Preference talked about. That sound okay? I'm gonna need a okay, something. Y'all are like real quiet. So first, we know to stay calm and collected. Even though it may be a little hard, we want to make sure that we are maintaining our composure as much as we can during disagreements, because we know that in our work, it's crucial for us to have productive dialogues and to keep those productive dialogue lines open. We want to practice active listening. So we active listening is a great way to make sure that everyone's viewpoints, even if it's opposing yours, they're seeing, they're hearing that you are understanding their concerns and any motivations that they may have. We want to make sure that we are having respectful communication between parties, even when faced with opposing viewpoints. And I know, as we've talked about, and the thing that we haven't really been naming, even though it may be hard moving forward, it's still important to make sure that we're having that respectful communication and also making sure that we're focusing on common ground. So identifying areas of agreement and really shared goals that can kind of help build those bridges or mend those gaps and find compromises in the space. We also want to make sure that when we are putting our point forward, when we're presenting our arguments, that we are using credible evidence and logical reasoning that people can use and trace back. But we also want to make sure that these evidence-based arguments are digestible for our community members to then regurgitate as they're sharing the message or the gospel or however you want to phrase it. We also want to make sure that we are acknowledging valid points. So if you are talking with somebody out in the community, you may not agree with everything, but sometimes it's important to make sure that we are acknowledging that valid points have been made, because that helps demonstrate a willingness to consider alternative perspectives. We want to make sure that we're looking for compromises where they are. So explore any potential compromises and solutions that can address the concerns of all parties involved. You guys may have heard the phrase, we attack problems, not people. So we want to make sure that we are avoiding any personal attacks when we're having these dialogues, focusing on the issues at hand, because that can, as we know, escalate tensions and kind of derail our discussions. In the word of the great Kenny Rogers, you gotta know when to walk away. So if a discussion becomes unproductive or hostile, it is okay to walk away. Get up, leave the room, take a breath, come back. It is okay to restart that discussion at a later time. With that in mind, know that mediation is always something that's available. To consider seeking assistance from a neutral party to facilitate a constructive dialogue and any conflict resolution. So we also want to make sure, while we're talking about these disagreements and challenges that can happen, that throughout all this, we are maintaining our momentum and enthusiasm for our projects. So we want to do that with consistent communication, things that preference has shared. We also want to provide opportunities for involvement for our community members. That means creating diverse ways for people to get involved. That can be a volunteer program, a committee, or using those feedback surveys that give people something they can do in the moment that they will see the results of later. We also want to make sure that we are celebrating our successes. So that's acknowledging any milestones and achievements, big or small, and share those stories of impact to highlight the difference that the community is making. One, for your community members, but also down the road. You may never know. These stories of success that you're collecting and making can be used for opportunities such as funding and just spreading the word. We also want to make sure that we're building relationships, foster those connections between community members and the leaders. You can do that through events, mentorship programs, and providing networking opportunities. We always want to make sure that we are transparent and accountable. And that's being open about those challenges that we talked about earlier, any setbacks we have, and about your decision-making process. That helps demonstrate to the community that, one, you want them to know what's going on, you're not hiding anything, this is an open space, but it also puts value into their input and gives them actionable things to do. We also want to focus on shared goals between community members and your organization. That way that they can see the vision, they can see the purpose, and see how it unites both. And we want to just make sure that we emphasize that this work takes all of us, and it's important to have collective impact for us to achieve our goal. We want to make sure that we are adaptable. As we know, in the times we are today, with a lot of changes going on, it's important to be adaptable and flexible, not only within your organization, but with your communities. That way, as things happen, things come, we're still able to continue doing the work. And we also want to make sure that we show recognition and appreciation to our community members. That can be something like a verbal thank you. We might have a little cute little community block party, something to show appreciation to our volunteers and our community members for their time, their effort, and their dedication to the work. And now I'll be passing to Mr. Williams to go over our community engagement model.
Thank you, Michaela. So we're here to see some things in practice, and we're going to share 3 particular things that ABC2 does that is considered our engagement model. So we have community teachings. So the community teachings is about building community capacity, the understanding, the awareness of what the issues are, identifying those things, and then activating the power within our communities. And this is very informative, but yes, informal but informative, where we talk about relevant topics. And it could be a workshop or whatever that may be that provided in a space just to bring the community together. It could be a potluck and those things. You have a speaker to come in or do different activities, action planning around a particular topic. And we call them teach-ins because you're building the capacity of how we build and organize together as an organization. And also it's interactive. So it's not just, we're just coming into someone lecturing to us about the issues, but really talking about our lived experiences and how we show up in the work. And then we do that for shared leadership, being able to assign particular tasks. Are you going to go to this particular church to make sure it's announced about the upcoming block party? Or whatever that may be. We use this space to be able to build what that looks like as in terms of communication, organizing, outreach, and those things. We have the Dawson Resiliency Hub, which we were fortunate to be able to purchase a former elementary school that was closed to erect for a community space that can be used for different things. So we utilized it for community teach-ins, community meetings, a resource library, or we call it a movement center. Different spaces where the community feel inclusive there, they feel valued, and they also are part of the action plan of what happens moving forward. So we say that it places an education for everyone, healing our communities. You know, it's important that we have some historical stripes in our community, and sometimes you have to address those or acknowledge those before you even move forward, because sometimes this work can open up some wounds that you may not be prepared to deal with. So being able to have those conversations and build that into your work, we call it wellness, or self-care and all those things. We make sure we incorporate that in our work also. Because how many of you know this work can burn you out? And then economic opportunities. Think about everything as an opportunity to boost economic development in your community, because when you build the capacity in the community and more community members are engaged, then you are moving forward in a positive way. And one of the most popular things that was requested to talk about today are our community watch parties, which was a means to engage community in a different way. And I say it was a dream, as in terms of how it came to be, because we all like to watch TV, look at movies, and have discussions, right? So our watch party model is about be hip. Everybody wants to be heard, everybody wants to be informed, and everybody wants to be prepared, correct? So that is the thing that we go into the community watch party model, as in terms of bringing community members together to watch a particular public meeting, whether it's a commissioners meeting, board of education meeting. It could be a committee for your state legislature, to be able to have some conversations about it, to ask questions, because sometimes in no formal setting, it is very unnerving, it's very uncomfortable, and sometimes it's not a welcoming space to ask questions in that open space. But in a community watch party, you're able to watch it, pause it, have a conversation, and you build the capacity of what questions to ask. And then sometimes people that are part of that community watch party will be empowered or activate their own power to want to go to the next meeting to actually raise that question to that public setting. That make sense? So with that, we provided mini grant opportunity to local community members. to apply to use this funding to watch a particular meeting in their community and have discussions about it to increase civic engagement, and then also to provide evaluation and feedback in terms of the impact. So we started an original watch party back in 2019 during the time of redistricting. You all remember in North Carolina, we had a big talk about redistricting and the census and all that happened. So there was a documentary called Slay the Dragon. So we watched that and had different representatives to come and had a conversation and educated the community about how redistricting is connected to the census, is connected to voting, and all those things. And then it helps to move forward in all of the other initiatives that we had. So how we made that power of the truth, and those organizations that applied, want to talk about one of the organizations, Weldon in Action. They applied for funding, and their focus areas was around accessibility of the town meeting and recreation. So they had several meetings, and they went to their town meeting. They worked on getting the town to open up a public forum session. They are working on getting the town to have a Zoom accessibility for members to do that, and now they have a recreation committee that's looking at the riverfront. This community was able to use watching the county commissioners meeting and making the town meeting accessible to more people in their community. First Baptist and Quanky Missionary Baptist churches, they came together and they wanted their focus areas to be on the county commissioners, Board of Education, the city council, and the rezoning of a historic black community that actually came up as a surprise in their conversation, watching the county commission meetings and things like that, that right across the street from where they was hosting the community watch party, the developer had sold the community from the people that was living there. So that became a topic of conversation, and then they was going to the city council meeting, and they stopped the developer from selling that property. See the power in the community, they understand the process of how the meeting ran because they watch it. They was able to ask questions about what are tax properties, why is it so important in our communities and things like that. And they was able to go to the meeting with a plan and articulate what their needs were. So, questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
Have you guys had a watch party that is not associated with, not specifically related to meetings, community meetings?
So the intent was to watch public meetings, whether the Board of Education, Board of Commissioners, and it was to increase civic engagement because in our community, people were not showing up at the meetings, and a lot of decisions was made locally that was impacting them, and our community was not engaged. So it's more to get people engaged in the decision-making process and holding our elected officials accountable when they make those decisions.
So when you say the Baptist church, they're having a watch party, and they're watching those 4 meetings? Is that what's
Oh
happening?
no, they have separate party, like they have a party specifically for the county commission meeting, and they will look at the commissioner meetings or they will highlight different parts of that meeting that was very important to discuss. And then they'll pause and have a discussion about it. And what they did that I thought was very unique is they invited like past commissioners or someone that has served in those spaces to be able to give a realistic perspective of how those meetings are ran. And then they will ask questions and they come up with a plan. And if anyone would like to go to the next upcoming meeting because they have watched that meeting, they'll get on the agenda for the public forum or public comment portion to ask a question to the committee or to the commissioners or whomever they have watched.
What's the target audience by each of those folks? Let's say, for example, the church, is it their congregants?
You would think it was their congregants, but it was more the community that they identified. Because most churches have like families that committed there, like members from right across the street.
Right.
They learned about their property was being sold by watching their city council meeting that was on the agenda, and it erupted a lot of conversation. So we don't put the parameters on who the community is. When they apply for the mini grant, they define their communities, how they fit. And we saw that grow, and it grew, And it was even to the point that one community were having a watch party the same as the other, and they wanted to go to each other's to learn about each other's communities.
Have you seen that being implemented in any of the Latino or Hispanic communities, as all of this has been going on now? Yeah?
Yes, have not been implemented yet, but we have been speaking with Hovicio to be able to share that model with Mexico.